Thank you guys for being on today. I do appreciate every one of you guys. I respect every single one of the speakers here today. You guys have
Me too.
done really well for yourselves.
Here
And I just want to let you guys
we
know,
go.
every single one of you guys. Oh, there's Mr. Bill Cook. We were just talking about Bill with Reggie. Um, Bill's wife Kim likes to say he hasn't grown up past 17. And Reggie would agree with that. That's kind of what I'm seeing from our initial call this morning. So
Uh,
welcome, welcome. Derek Long is on this morning. Adam, Scott, Dana Jr., Susan. They just keep hopping on and hopping on here. I'll just give them another minute or two. We've got a super busy call today. A lot of people, a lot of super smart people on this call. And I'm actually interested in learning myself. Every time I go to an event, I actually went to the Mr. Landlord convention. And I've been many times. I've been to his boot camp. I've been to his different things throughout the years, his conventions down in nice areas of the world, Cabo, and we're going to Costa Rica with our family, bringing my family this year. But every time I jump on a call like this, every single time I go to an event, I meet somebody, I learn something, and it's just an amazing group of people. I appreciate Jim for starting Deal Makers, and this is the Deal Maker Community Call. Every month we jump on and we have community calls. So I want to thank everybody for showing up this morning. I'm just going to kind of share screen and get going here for everybody. So welcome to the Deal Maker Community Call in June. Um, if you were not on last month, we had a really good call. Went over a little bit with Bill Cook, but just a lot of questions. He just really blew a lot of people's minds, and we just had a really good call. Appreciate Bill for being on that. If you guys didn't get to jump on last month, make sure you guys go to the website and you guys can watch all of the previous Dealmaker community calls as well. Today we've got Jim Ingersoll, we've got Reggie Lau, Jeff Watson, Rich Lennon, and my good buddy Kevin Femley, who does not have any curls going on in his hair tonight, as we have mentioned previously before everybody else jumped on. So I'm super excited about this call. We're going to be talking today about small dollar IRAs. And I'm sure there's many other people we could have asked, but hey, these were just the first five people that kind of popped up, and I asked to speak about this. I thought it was a great opportunity, and I think we're just going to really kind of debunk the idea that you have to have $1 million in your IRA to actually do anything with it. And I'm really excited about today's call. I have personally only used one thing in my small dollar IRAs. And I've done it over and over and over and over again. And I'm not going to talk at all about my thing today, but I'm super excited to learn from these super smart gentlemen today. Um, uh, I do want to make sure everybody, the deal maker community, if you guys, I have been hearing some chatter from people in this about Sherwin-Williams and Lowe's, and some people are still having problems getting these discounts and getting in these programs. I just wanted to offer this to everybody. If you are having problems with that or you don't know how to sign up, just contact me. I'm serious. Just Facebook message me. You can email me at tolson@goodsuccess.com, and I'd be glad to connect you and make that happen for you guys. So I'm not going to say anything else more about that. Want to remind everybody about the September Dealmaker event. We've got September 4th through 6th. Make sure you guys get signed up for that. We're 76 days out from that. And then also make sure that we're getting signed up for the private capital event as well, October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And there will be several people that are on this call, myself and Jeff and Jim, that I know will be there for sure. But I'm excited about this event as well. So just make sure you guys get your tickets for both of those. Next month, I've got a special guest. She's going to be Lindsay Jensen. She just spoke at Dealmaker Richmond, the national convention. She's going to be talking about master leasing, cash flow with no money down, no risk. Be the first to know when a seller is renting their property and how to make impossible deals possible. I'm really excited about having that call. So I'm gonna go quick, guys. We're right to the end and ready to get right into our speakers today. So we're gonna start with Jim Ingersoll.
Oh,
I'm gonna let go of my
hey,
screen here and escape out of here. I think I stopped sharing. I did it a different way than I normally do. So um,
great.
All right, so I'm going to start with Jim, and then I'm going to go from Jim to Jeff Watson, and then after Jeff, we'll talk to Rich, and then we'll go to Kevin, and then we'll go to Reggie. So just so you guys know, the layout here, we're just going to kind of try to give them 10 minutes each to give you their best ideas about how to use your small dollar IRAs, and then I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions. I will try to moderate and keep as many of the questions answered as we can. But just know we've got some speakers that have hard stops right at the top of the hour. So we've got a lot of time here, but I'm just going to let Jim have the floor then.
Okay, how's everybody doing? Say hello in the chat box. Tell us what city and state you're joining us from. Many of you I know, but if I've never met you, my name is Jim Ingersoll, and it's good to see you guys today. When I think of growing small dollar IRAs, there's 4 or 5 things that come to mind for me. Many of these I'm sure will be spoken about today. None of us have discussed what we're going to share. But for me, the ones that come to mind, of course, you see Bill Cook. What do you think? Maybe options, super powerful form of leverage that would be awesome for a small dollar IRA. I think it's a great idea. I have not done that. Then we talk about Lindsay Jensen, Tom. So why can't you arbitrage a small dollar IRA?
You absolutely can.
So I think that's a great one, and it's a huge lead into next month. Lindsay is really good at that. You can arbitrage your small dollar IRA and do a furnished rental or just pick up a lease with an option to buy. That kind of thing is great. So I like options, I like arbitrage. But the two I think that I've used personally the most are joint ventures and wraps. And when I first started doing small dollar IRA, I did joint ventures. I did a bunch of them, and all of them worked great. We didn't have a single issue with any of them. And it's probably some of my joint venture partners may be on Zoom right now. I'm not sure. But the way a joint venture works is a small dollar IRA will buy a house, but how can you do that when you only have $5,000 in your account, right? So it all comes back to leverage. So the way that I did it is I would take like my HSA that started with under $10,000 when we began and bought a house. And somebody else's Roth IRA participated with it and did all of the funding. And we did that through equity participation notes, not debt financed. There's some nuances there, of course, and we controlled it with a JV agreement. So we would buy a house. I've done this with multiple people in multiple accounts, and somebody else's Roth would fund it, and then we would split all of the income streams 50-50. So the first one I did was over near the VA hospital in Richmond. Rich, you know that area. And back then it was a foreclosure, back when we used to have foreclosures. Don't have those anymore. It was a cheap 4-bedroom house for like $80,000. We probably put $40,000 into it. So our total investment back then was like 120. It was like a split level home. And what we did is I rented it to a Section 8 tenant. I don't like Section 8. I don't have any Section 8 tenants today, so I'm not promoting Section 8. But we did that, and the tenant lived in that house for about 5 years. All the rent was paid on time because it was Section 8. We didn't have any issues. And then we sold the house, and we sold it for probably $250,000. And then the way it works is you split the monthly cash flow on rent net. And then at the end, when you sell it, again, you split it 50-50. So half of the funds went into my HSA and the other half went into my JV partners, Roth. So it was a win-win. You cash flow pretty good when you don't have a bank mortgage, by the way, guys. So that's one way that works really well. In more recent years, there's nothing that I don't like about Section 8. I think it worked really well back when we had foreclosures and the economy was really rocky coming out of the crash. I don't have any need for Section 8 right now. My investment criteria has changed over the years. I want better property and better locations and better tenants. So I've just sort of tweaked that over the years. Nothing against Section 8. And then over the last few years, I've done more. I started doing private money lending, but then I kept watching people like Chuck Glover and now Rich and other people talk about wraps so much that I went more towards wrap lending, and I've been doing a lot of wrap lending now. Um, and the way that that works is you can leverage your lending just like I leveraged on a joint venture. So you don't have to have all the money in your account. You could start with $10,000 and do a $200,000 loan if you wanted, or a $150,000 loan, maybe on a mobile home on land or whatever, small house in your market, Tom.
Mhm.
And other markets around the country where in Dana's in Michigan. I mean, you can still get cheap things. Dana, your cabin is awesome. I would have loved to have done a joint venture or a wrap with you on that. You bought that thing cheap and it's going to be an amazing furnished rental. I love it, what you're doing there, those kinds of things. And so, what you can do is you can leverage lending, and I do it with a co-lender. I've got two loan requests this morning. I'm going to need two more co-lenders, one in Texas and another in Ohio, I think, maybe another third one. And so I really like doing these loans. The returns are really high. Most of my wrap lending loans are returning 25 to 50%, but it really depends on your terms and really more importantly, your leverage point. So if you learn to do that, you can begin to go that way. Think about it. That's how Chuck Glover did it at 69. So your age doesn't matter. He had about $5,000 when he started, and now he's really enjoying financial freedom. He's in Kenya right now, which is amazing. So you can start with the low amount and then just start doing some lending. Don't think you've got to have all the money to buy a house. You can do it on a JV. Don't think you need all your own money. You can do it on a wrap. So those are two ways that I've done it. What kind of questions do you guys have? Who's got a small dollar IRA you'd like to grow? Anybody? Okay, good. Who's got a larger IRA that you would like to put to work? I mean, there's so much money just sitting right now. If you look at the chart for how much money is sitting in money market accounts, it's like this.
Oh, yeah.
That's just money market accounts. Think about CDs and then trillions, literally trillions with a T sitting in IRAs. So there's all the money you need for all of your deals is already printed. It's already, think about it as like it's already got your name on it. All you got to do is figure out how to use it, how to put it to work safely and treat everybody right. And you can do as many deals as you want. All right, tell us about the wrap you did. I've done quite a few of them, Scott. But a typical wrap for me um, would be like 20 to $50,000 of my own money and maybe $150,000 of somebody else's money. I'm doing one right now for I just got back from the bank. This one's a little different. I put $80,000 in the wire I just sent before this Zoom. And my co-lender is putting in $180,000. So the leverage points all change. So it's a $260,000 loan, and I did 80,000 of my own, and my return on that's close to 30%. So I'm happy with that. Here's the thing about routes that I think, Rich, I think you'd agree with this. I'm sure you've analyzed it. You can create a super high return, say 50%, but if it's only $5,000 of your own money, it's not much cash. So you got to balance that leverage with how much profit you're actually going to make in real life. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if your starting point is low, that's okay. Start there, and you can take that and grow it pretty significantly. Let's see. Sean said, "How much of your own capital do you put into a wrap?" It varies for me on every loan. I put as little as probably $5,000 or $10,000 down. Like if I'm investing in inherited IRA or something, and 80,000 was the amount I put in today's. So it does vary quite a bit. But I created a GPT for this. It's called LendPro GPT. And so I can put my structure, the terms, and the amounts into LendPro, and it'll do all the math. I'll know exactly, thank you, Tom. I'll know exactly the amount of my ROI. based on the terms, but everything impacts it. Your points, your rate, how long the loan goes, your leverage point. And I think that's what I love about wraps though too, is because you can really engineer them any way you want, and you can create the return that you like. Anyone else have a question on JV or I'm sure Rich, you're going to talk about wraps as
I
well
think, Jim, I think it's
from a
important
different perspective.
to point out. I think everybody needs to figure out where they're at and what they need. Because Jim, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember way back when you started doing these with your HSA, it was because you had a need, right? You had to have a hip
Sure.
replacement, right?
I did.
Yeah, so like think about this. Like this matters. This really matters to people's life. Right now, for instance, for me, I'm trying to move my small dollar daughter's ESAs because I'm trying to help pay for college. So, the whole purpose of why you're doing what you're doing really does matter. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Um,
So Tom, why don't you take that ESA with your daughter and just buy a house and hold it until she goes to college? Would you do well
well,
if
she's
you did
in
that?
college right now, so I have
Oh, you're a little late on that one
I-
then. Your next kids. How old is your
exactly
youngest?
right, exactly.
How old is Zach? How old is
Zach's
your youngest?
11.
So you got 7 years.
Yep.
Think of the cash flow over 7 years and the amount of equity you're going to grow over
Right.
7 years.
So, like I said, I just wanted to point that out because, for Jim, it really helped him in a time that he needed to figure out how to get some money, to make that happen. So I think it all starts with that and what you do and how you do it. I personally prefer the longer term wraps. I love the short term wraps, don't get me wrong. And I know the points they grow into that, but I would rather keep my money out there and keep it working at a super high percentage for as long as it can work if you're in that wrap position. So that's just my opinion. I'm going to move to Jeff here. We're already at
Take it
18.
away.
So take it away, Jeff. I know you've got some cool things to talk about here, and maybe have some. You can answer some of the questions that were already asked here too.
All right. So thank you. It's a privilege to be here. I've got three things I want to share with you. And for some of you, in fact, most of you, I hope you have your financial calculator there nearby. If you don't have your financial calculator nearby, then I question your real estate investor credentials. So anyhow, that's a joke. I'm being a little sarcastic today, okay? One of the things I want to tell you is I was a kid one time working in the fields, and we saw something weird. It was this time of the year, and there was this missing gap in the field. There was a row of corn coming up. There was another row of corn coming up, and then there was this gap, and then there was another row of corn coming up. And we looked at it and we go, what happened? We realized we didn't have any seed in the one bin in the planter. And so we were going to get half or less than half of the result. So I tell you that story to get your attention. What I want you to remember is this. If you're not consistently making contributions to your small dollar account, you and your future self need to have a conversation. And that future self is going to come kick your present day butt. Okay? So I want you to run some numbers with me real quickly. You're going to say to me, oh, Jeff, I just got $5,000 in this brand new IRA. It's a Roth IRA. I got $5,000 in it. I got a chance to put my money out for 12%. I'm going to be like Tom. I found a deal that's going to go for 60 months. It's great LTV. I'm going to let it run. I got 12 grand cooking. You're going to earn 12% on it for 60 months. Now, your financial calculator should tell you that after 60 months, your 5 grand has grown to $9,083. Congratulations. Well done. Now, you're going to be like Reggie. Going to pick on Reggie now. And you're going to be like, hey, man, I got a deal. I got my 5 grand in my Roth IRA. I can go make 12% on it. But at the same time, I'm going to put $250 a month into that same IRA as a contribution, just $250 a month. So you got 60 months at 12%, $5,000 PV, payment of going into there of $250 a month. Your future value, your future self hugs you over the 29,500 and some odd dollars are sitting in that account. The difference, $250 a month between 9 and 29. $250 a month. So if you're not making contributions, shame on you. Your future self needs to hop in a time machine, come kick your butt and get going. Okay. Now, here are the things I've done to grow a small dollar account. I've done deals with as little as 300 bucks, as little as 300 bucks. It was basically a wrap. Okay. It was a wrap. I took that I grew it into 3,000, and I took that 3,000 and I rolled it into a self-directed IRA owned trust along with another 3,000 from another family account. And now we're up where that 6,000 has just grown. Yeah, it's Chick-fil-A or Starbucks money, that 250 a month. So if you're not funding your retirement account every month, then stay out of Chick-fil-A, stay out of Starbucks, and so on. Okay. And oh, by the way, I'm going to just go ahead and all you lovers of Jesus Christ, I'm going to really push your button today. If what you're driving parked in the church parking lot costs you more per month than what you putting in the church offering plate, you and Jesus need to have a conversation.
Amen.
And like I'm going to say it again, if what you're driving parked in that church parking lot or parked in your driveway is costing you more per month than what you're putting in your retirement account, you and your future self need to have that conversation. Just saying. Okay. So I love doing little wraps. I've done it with as little as 300 bucks. One of the other things I love doing, I learned this one. I don't know who I first learned this one from. I learned this from some of the old time legends in the industry. It could have been Mr. Henry Dvorkin out of Wichita Falls, Texas. I could have learned this from. It could have been two or three other guys. It could have been Gary Johnston and Clyde Wilson. I learned this from. I don't remember where I got this from. I call it 10 for 12. I call it 10 for 12. I will lend you $10,000 in exchange for 12 payments of $1,000 a month. I'll lend you 10 grand now, Mr. Landlord, so you can replace the HVAC. And you'll give me $1,000 a month for 12 months. Now you plug that into your financial calculator and you might love that rate of return of 35.07%. That's money that'll get Rich Lennon to pay attention. That's a rate of return that'll get Rich's attention, okay? Because Rich gets bored with anything just with a one in front of it, okay? It's got to get a crooked number and be 2 digits or longer to get Rich's attention, all right? So I'll tell you about the last thing, because I don't want to run out of time on this thing. I'll tell you about the last good deal I did was a wrap. I put in 10 grand. The other lender put up $140,000. We made a loan of 150K secured on a commercial building in a good part of Cleveland, Ohio, where it was rapidly growing. There was a lot of revitalization money in there. That asset is probably worth $400,000 today. That borrower has struggled off and on, off and on. And today he owes me more now than when we originally made the loan. And he's made 3 years of payments, 4 years of payments, because of just the way we wrote the loan, and he didn't make payments during COVID because his tenant stopped paying, all these other things. That has been one of the best long-term wrap deals I've done. You notice the theme? It's a wrap, it's long-term, good LTV, decent tenant underneath. I was a credit-worthy tenant underneath, National Auto Parts Distributor. So we did all these things the right way, and this thing is really, really paid off very well inside of my IRA-owned trust. So that's the stuff that I do, but the fundamental thing, it happens every month. It's out of my control. Before I get a check from my law firm deposited into my personal banking account, yank! And I'm not talking about the IRS. I'm talking about my retirement plan. It gets fed first. It eats before I do. I yield back the balance of my time.
Jeff, I've got one question. So can you go back to the 10 for 12?
Sure.
So who are you doing that to again, or who are you doing that with?
I find a landlord that needs 10 grand because the HVAC just went out.
And you're
And
securing that
they got to get it done. They need 10 grand to go get that done. They got some duct work and other junk that's got to go with it. I lend them 10,000 bucks. I'll take back a note and a second mortgage and an assignment of rents. I know there's already a mortgage on the house. They think they're going to be paying credit card rates on the money. But if I can redeploy that money, if I can snowball it, because I might have 2 or 3 or 4 of these going at a time, once I start snowballing these things, I can literally start with 10,000 bucks in about 7 years between contributions and 10 for 12 loans. I'm well over 6 figures in that account.
And then lastly, and maybe you can't answer this question, I'm not sure, but how do you find them?
I do this thing that's really, really old fashioned and antiquated, Tom. I show up at events and I talk to people.
There you go. What do you?
It's so bizarre.
All
I
right.
don't use social media. I don't have a website. I don't use pay per click. I talk to people and I just hear what they're saying. And landlords love to complain about all the things that go wrong. I mean, I'm a landlord. I can tell you all the stuff going wrong in my deals, right? I can tell you everything about all my bad tenants. They love to complain. And so that's an opportunity, you know? I'm just this old-fashioned dude. I show up at these boring events, I meet people and I talk to them and I listen to
Man, what wisdom right there, guys. Chuck says it all the time. You have to be in the room. Like one of the rules, you have to be in the room. You have to show up.
I mean,
That's
I was in the room this morning when Kim Cook put Bill in his place because Bill was trying to rent a house out that Kim would not let happen.
I would have loved to be in that room. It's always fun when Kim does that. I actually learned something very profound from the last event I was with Kim and Cook. It's called the Tommy Lottery. So if you don't know what that means with the Billy Lottery, you'll have to talk to me on a different day. So we got to get through here. We got three more people to go. Rich, are you ready, sir? Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that. I do have a side question, but I'll probably try to hit you a different time about that. So,
All right.
Rich,
Yeah, I'm here.
you're on, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it. Yeah, just a lot of great ideas from Jim and Jeff. I think, like all of us, we're trying to just give our own twist on things that, Jeff said it, where we learn from other people, right? We just kind of take other people's ideas and we steal those ideas and we just try to modify them a little bit, make them a little bit better every generation through. Um, so the first one, I mean, I don't know, I might burst into flames, particularly on this call, but the first one that I like to, I think getting your IRA as big as possible, as quick as possible should be your strategy. It's easier to invest when you have more money in it. And then you can go about trying to earn big returns in 20 and 30 and 50% or whatever your target might be. So my strategies were always to build my IRAs up as fast as possible. And I would consider paying the taxes is one thing that I would do in these small dollar IRAs. I think that the flip is a great tool inside your small dollar IRA. And you're going to have to go and you're going to have to leverage that likely, although we can talk about some scenarios where you wouldn't have to leverage, but you just pay the UBIT. And so go and do the deal, put a big chunk of money into your IRA, and then go ahead and pay the taxes because now you've got some velocity and some depth to that IRA. And I know that with specifically when we talk about IRAs, we're always focused on how do I avoid that tax implication. I think particularly in the small dollar IRAs, there's some good arguments to be made that you should pay the taxes so that you can now get a larger amount of money into that IRA faster. And then the compounding effect over time, you take that compounding effect over 10 years and you get a massive growth because you went and you paid the taxes on the first transaction. And of course, when you leverage in your IRA, you have to pay proportional tax to the amount of time that you leverage. But I think there are also creative ways that you could do a flip without necessarily having to leverage. You could write some type of joint venture where you have a preferred partner and an A and B share in a corporation. You go to a guy like Jeff Watson, you're like, oh, here's a couple $1,000 to write me that document. Whether or not he would or someone like him would be a question. But so there are some ways to avoid that tax. But I'm not opposed to going and paying that tax on a flip or two, making sure you follow the rules. There are a lot of rules when you're doing stuff like that. You need to make sure you don't service that deal in any way. Certainly don't give it a personal guarantee, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of education that goes involved. But my first suggestion would be just do a flip. Find a big, fat, juicy flip that you can go in and stick in that IRA, and then you're off to the races. And I have a slight twist on Jim's joint ventures. I remember Jim teaching us about his joint ventures. It's got to be like 15 years ago, by the way. And really appreciate that knowledge that's been instrumental in my growth. But again, I'll go back to I want to grow that IRA as fast as possible. And because I want that compounding effect over time. And so I would just structure my deal slightly different. I would say, okay, I'm going to go in with my $1,000, $5,000, six, whatever you're going to put in, and then I get my joint venture partner to come in and put the rest of the money. But what I like to negotiate was I would take all the rent for X amount of time. And so I would go out and let's say I'm nowadays it's more like a $150,000 rental property, and let's say I'm earning $1,500 of rent on that property. Let's just forget about the the taxes, the insurance you got to pay, et cetera, et cetera. But I would look to put that $1,500 per month directly into my IRA. And that way I could grow that, what is that, like $18,000 a year? I could grow that $18,000 a year. And maybe I would do that for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. In exchange for that, I would give away either 100% of the equity on the rental after that, or I would give away 80% of the equity in that rental, or I would reverse it and go, I get all the rent for 3 years, and then you get rental for 3 years, and then we sell, and grab the equity at 50-50. But those joint ventures can be manipulated such that you can take the money quicker up front so that you get the velocity of your IRA faster. And so if you only have $5,000 in your IRA, you put it in the first deal, you go out, you find a rental, you're taking all that rental income. And it only takes you 3 or 4 months to then accumulate another spot where you've got another $5,000 or $6,000 that you can go then put into the next joint venture. And then now you can do two of those. And so I would try to get 2 to 3 of those going per year so that I was basically putting front loading the income off of those rentals into my IRAs. And in exchange for that, I would give away more equity on the backside. And so those are my two favorite ways to do it. I think it's important to try to get as much money in there as possible, as early as possible. I really like Jeff's point of don't forget to keep contributing to those IRAs, especially the small dollar ones. Boom, that's it. That was pretty quick. That was like 5 minutes.
Anybody have any questions there? So I guess my question is, why would you give away 100% of the equity? I understand giving away extra equity or giving, but I mean, is that just?
Well, I mean, if I grab the first $45,000 of rental payments for 3 years because I'm grabbing, like, how much is the equity worth on the backside? And so I think it's whatever you can negotiate. But for me, the ability to compound on the front side, so I can now get those 3 or 4 payments and go do the second deal, far outweighed a piece of the equity that I wanted on the backside, because I really wanted my partner to go away saying like, wow, that was amazing. I want to do that again. Let me call Rich Lennon and like get those relationships and get people coming back. So I was never afraid to maybe give away like a bigger piece of that because I really wanted them to be incentivized because they are taking risk. The market turns and the equity is less. Like, they're taking risk and they should be compensated for it.
Sure. Any other questions for Rich? He's got a couple minutes left.
So just think about it really quick. If you had a small dollar IRA and you did like three or four in a year and held them for 3 years and sold them, how well you would do. Everything cash flows without a mortgage.
And you get to compound that.
And I
Right?
will say I have seen people butcher joint venture agreements, take advantage of people. So I will counterbalance that a little bit and just say make sure you have somebody really strong on the legal side to make sure you're working with people with high integrity that won't do that.
I agree. And
I'm
Jeff,
going to put
I
a
could talk a lot
joint
more about
venture
that.
training
But
video
I
into the
would
chat.
highly encourage you to make sure that there's another agreement in addition to the joint venture. Make sure there's a note and mortgage. Make sure that it's secured by a mortgage. That's how I would probably do it in my state. But there's lots of other ways to securitize that. But I just make sure that there's some kind of other teeth in that. If Jeff, you want to blurb for 30 or 40 seconds on that, you definitely have the floor.
Yeah, I watch most of the bad deals that come across my desk are improperly, incompletely documented joint venture agreements where there's not been a clear meeting of the mind and not been a thinking of what could go wrong and how do we deal with it.
Yeah.
because everybody gets all the happy hormones of how much money we're going to make based on the pro forma. Okay. Yeah, I got it. But you got to button it down. You got to have the conversation about, hey, what if something goes wrong? The second thing is the second number one thing that I see that comes across my desk that's gone sour are poorly drafted notes, do-it-yourself notes and mortgages. That's, you don't have to hire me on every one of them. Just get my stuff from the first time around, use me the second, third time, and it's cheaper and faster, cheaper and faster. Go from there. But I mean, that's the two things I see. Yeah, do your own legal work is just not sustainable. It really isn't. And budget money into every deal for legal. Budget money into every deal for legal and accounting. That's how a real business runs. I know that's shocking. I know that's shocking. I know that's completely contrary to what the internet, the TV, the Instagram, the TikTokers say about how I can find a couple of quarters in my couch cushions and go make $100,000 in real estate. But listen, there's people that have been doing this for decades, longer than I've been doing this. I think Reggie's been doing this longer than I've been doing this. Bill's been doing this a little bit longer than I've been doing this. We've got, between Bill and I, we're close to 70, 80 years in the real estate space. And it's a business. Treat it like a business. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for bringing that up, Jim.
I just want to throw in there, if I could, Tom, real quick. I think it's important. Legal advice is key to your success. Like we talk about taxes and things like that, but having a good attorney write your paperwork is crucial. But I will also throw out there that you have to understand your own paperwork. And I get sometimes where people come in and they get an attorney's opinion on something, and not every attorney is smart as Jeff or is knowledgeable in this specific space. And then they go and they get someone outside the space and they get these documents that really don't make a lot of sense and don't pertain to what is trying to go. And so I think it's really important that you read the documents. And I'm shocked at the number of people who, even professionals, seasoned professionals, who get something back and don't read it themselves to the point where they understand it.
Absolutely, I agree. It's funny because some people are like, "Hey, what's some of the best advice that you can give somebody that's getting into real estate now?" I would literally tell you, go spend $400 and sit down with a real estate attorney for an hour and just like you will learn so much more from that hour talking to a real estate attorney that and you really can't like put it in words. I can't tell you exactly how that works, but I'm telling you, especially real estate attorney, not just any attorney is going to be able to help you with this. So, and different attorneys have different opinions, and that's okay. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. Some people like to have very simple documents that are easy to understand for everybody. Some people want to put extra legal stuff in there, and I think they both work as long as they're going to be working with the state and people can understand what's going on there. So, good advice there. All right, let's move on. Kevin, are you ready, sir?
I am. Hey, everybody. I'm Kevin Family from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I think I know most of you, but not everyone here. Some really good tidbits here from the guys in front of me. So I jotted a few things down while Jeff and Jim were talking. I won't talk whole lot about technique because most of them have said it, but to be honest, this small dollar IRA space, this is what I do every day. I mean, I have rentals, but limited time commitment on them anymore. But this is all I do. I have a lot of IRAs that I work for my family and then some outside friends and so forth. So it's it's a lot of work. I'll be honest. Just looking back from where I started in 2018, that's when I started to get everything moving for my daughter's ESAs. I sort of just learned that you could self-direct them, and then I learned that my daughters are both going to go to college. I'm like, oh shoot, I got to get moving. And luckily, my oldest, she only has one semester left, but they're going to come out of school with no debt. So I turned on the burners and really went crazy with it. Probably took about 50, 60 loans to pay for their tuitions, but we got it done. The next one is an inherited Roth, and it's the same situation. You know, how do you start with this thing with $1,000 in it? And now it's, you know, I'm doing, it's gaining, it's probably doubling the return every year. I think I have probably close to 140 in it in about 3 years. So it's possible, but I'm just telling you, it's a lot of work. And I know it's a very cumbersome process for investors. I've talked to over the years, they always have their IRA sitting at the custodian and they do other activity and don't focus on it. Sort of like what Jeff was saying, either contributing to it or saying, hey, I'll get to it one day. But you got to, time flies. I've been a landlord for 25 years and I can't believe it. I mean, time flies. So you got to get on it and you got to get moving. Some of the terms that I think of when I think of small dollar IRA, one is mindset. You have to have mindset and creativity. And the way you structure your deals might be very unorthodox, but your goal is to build that IRA quickly. Like Rich said, you got to get some dollars in there so they can compound. So whatever you're doing, a flip or whatever, it might be an unorthodox structure, but that's your goal. Second term, I think of UBIT, which was discussed. Another one that I think goes along with mindset is financial friends. You can do a lot of different projects, deals with financial friends. So you just got to get creative and figure, hey, maybe there's an option opportunity here with a financial friend or a flip type of opportunity. My other term that I like is velocity. I like to constantly move my deals. So all all of my small dollar IRA techniques are through lending. And that's how I got started. I had $1,900 in a ESA account back in 2018. I did one of my first lending deals with it. I walked away from the closing table with $2,900 in the points, so, from the points. So I had my money back more than I even contributed to it because that's all it had. There was like a $1,900 contribution limit. So that's all I had to put in. I walked away from title office with 2,900 back in that account. So went out the next day, next week, did another one and just repeated that. And that's how it grew so fast. And Tom mentioned about the need. That's where it came from me. I had this need to, hey, I had to grow this ESA really quick. Now it's my HSA. That's what I'm really focused on now is to really take that thing to gangbusters. Probably one of the biggest challenges I see in lending with small dollar IRAs is management of the loan. So I did get a software system to manage that, and I know, Tom, we're going to want to talk about this sometime. I haven't left the cat out of the bag yet on this software, but it will fill a void with small dollar IRAs, which is going to be really cool. So we can do some deals together again. What else? That's, creativity, lending. That's my thing. 150 loans later, that's how these IRAs get growing. And I like the small short term. If I have a borrower that asks me about doing a 2, 3 month loan, a lot of lenders will not like that because it's too short, too much paperwork, so forth. I actually love it. I'll still do them today and I'll structure them in an IRA where I can go in, get my points, get my fees, whatever it is, and turn around and redeploy that 3, 4 months later and into another one.
So most of what you're doing is wraps.
No, I don't even do wraps much anymore. It's more fractionalized lending
Okay.
with assignments.
Gotcha. All right. And then I think people hear these concepts and they're like, okay, this is great. Now, how do I go and find these? So let's just sit there a little bit. And then I've got another comment I wanted to I thought Rich was going to talk about this because he talked about this last time I heard him speak. But you brought up a good point here about the fact that it's work. But Kevin, why don't you just give us a little bit about like how do you find the loans and then how do you find the other people to work with you? Because basically you're using leverage twice. You're leveraging other people's money and you're leveraging other people's skills and other people's, ability. So how are you finding those and being the conduit to connect all that together?
So it goes back to what Jeff Watson was saying about talking to people and meeting people in your circle, whether it be locally or nationally. Let people know, hey, this is my goal. This is what I want to do. This is what I have to do because of the need of XYZ, and get some deals put together. So find someone that you could partner up with, and maybe they have the same need, and say, hey, okay, we got to find someone to bring some large dollars to this deal. Who do you know? And then it, I don't know, it comes together. Just start talking, start start networking and hang out with the right people that have the desire and want to build these things and see. Basically, people need to see the value of it first. I still talk to people about an inherited Ross, and I'm amazed that they're sort of glazed over and like, why would I do that? I'm like, well, hey, your biggest expense throughout your life is going to be taxes. So if you enjoy paying them, go for it. I don't.
That's good. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate your wisdom on that. And it's funny. I met Kevin at a Mr. Landlord conference, and I don't think you had done any loans up until that point, right? So, and I told him, I'm like, hey, you should just at least think about maybe just making lending part of what you do. And now he's kind of like shifted towards most of what he's been doing lately is, lending, selling off rentals and lending. But Kevin's just a really good guy. If you don't know him, I'd highly recommend you guys get to know him. He's really pretty cool guy, and he doesn't have any hair on top, so you guys can just rub his head like a
It's a
genie.
wig. It's
And
just a wig.
something that I had been talking about in the different family office groups that I've been a part of over the last 5 or 6 years is that whenever there's like this scale, right? So, and Rich, you articulated this super well at Mr. Landlord. But if you could make 4% pretty much passively and pretty much risk-free, right? And you could make 8% and you're going to take maybe a little bit more risk. And you could, invest in the S&P, I think is what Rich said. I think you could also do it in private money with a little bit lower risk. There's lots of different ways you could make 8%. You could make 12% and now you're starting to leverage, right? You're starting to take some risk. And it might actually require you to do some work. But if you want to start making higher returns, which I think in Rich's presentation talking about 20 to 50% returns, you have to understand that there's risk involved and there's more work involved. It's one thing that people have not talked enough about. And I think it's why a lot of people are finding themselves in trouble. They're not seeing like this pendulum and they're not adding risk into their calculation and tabulation when they're actually doing a deal. So I did want to point that out here because a lot of times when you're doing small dollars, you're taking a small amount of risk from a dollar perspective, but you're also adding other risks, and which part of that risk is actually the work that you have to do. You know what I mean? So part of what you're doing there is the work. So like I really do believe that what Kevin said is super true. Lots of wisdom there. If you're going to work these things, guess what? It's going to be work. It's not just going to be a lot of passive stuff. It's going to be somebody doing, actual work. I think how many loans did you say you did, Kevin? 150?
I'm probably up to close to 175 now.
And that's since when though?
23.
So in 2 years.
Well,
That's
we
almost a
I
full-time
I did
lending
some
business.
I
Yeah.
did some small I did a few here and there between 18 and 23, just one-offs, but that's when the volume started going crazy. It was in 23.
Yeah, that's good. All right, Reggie, to you, sir, the one with all the experience.
Tom, I think that means I'm old. That's what he's really trying to say. I'm an old guy here.
Bill said that, not me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure. Learn and grow together.
Hey, don't be throwing me down the, I love Reggie Lau. I owe Reggie Lau money right now.
Oh, you owe him money. Oh boy.
It's old guys rule. The legacy of Jack lives on. So anyway, hey, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to learn and grow together. It's a great panel. Some really, really sharp people here for sure. Happy to share my O2, but I'm going to keep it up high because of the time constraints here today. So my thoughts here, I just penned a few thoughts to kind of get people thinking about this topic up high. So first and foremost, educate, educate, educate. Do it early before you make the mistakes and have to do it in a duress situation. Self-direct for sure. You got to get control of your retirement because no one's going to do it for you, as Jeff mentioned earlier. Pick a reliable custodian. There's a lot of them. We've had some mishaps. I'm not going to name some names, but some big ones even. So choose wisely. Watch out for those extra fees and charges for each service. They're going to nickel and dime you to death. Every alternative asset, whatever they call it, every payment received, every wire going out. So perhaps look at doing an IRA-owned LLC or a trust or some other way to navigate around that, especially if you're doing a lot of small deals. If you don't have a big balance and they're charging you $2,000 a year on fees, that's probably not going to be good math for you. So watch out for that. There are ways to engineer around it. So learn the differences between self-directed IRAs and 401ks. There's some major, major differences. Your ability to roll over into one versus the other. UBIT, how's that treated? UDFI. If you don't understand these acronyms, then get on some more education or hit me up on Messenger and I'll be happy to. RMDs, ROBs, how mistakes are treated. If you make a mistake in the early years, is it going to disallow all of it or just one part of it? So these are important differences that you got to nail down. If you don't get it, you're playing kind of blind. I think Rich said it earlier, no surprise, sharp guy. Get the Roth bucket going as quick as you can. Roths are your friend. In the early years, you got to use strategies that grow things rapidly. And it's not a secret. We've named a bunch: wrap lending, assignments, options, joint ventures, equity share lending, maybe a small second with part of the equity, some kind of value add investing, however that looks in your world, whatever you're doing. Um, maybe a part of a lease option or something like that. Obviously, options are a big, great way to do it early on. And Plug Bill does a great class on options. He also gives you all the paperwork, so you can't say I don't know how it's too complicated. You sure can. Don't do anything silly, man. This is just too good to mess up. It's just like people do some really dumb things and then call me, and I'm like, well, that was like you're gonna put a big number at risk for a couple $100 a night room or something. So keep it clean, keep it pure. Don't do the self-dealing, the personal guarantees, the silly behaviors that are going to get you looked at or disallowed later. It's just too good. Don't mess it up, man. If you're going to do a conversion, make sure you do it on a discounted basis. It hurts my heart that people will take non-Roth funds and then convert them over dollar for dollar, pay the tax. I agree with Rich about paying the tax, get it Roth and carry on. That's a great strategy. But if you could do it and get another bite out of it by doing it on a discount basis, now you're really getting somewhere. And there are various ways to discount it, obviously, lack of control, the lockup period, the type of investment, the liquidity, et cetera, et cetera. So find a really good investment, someone you trust, maybe invest in it and then get a discount basis and then it comes out. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. I know Jeff's really good at this. He does evaluations and things. So if you need his help, hit him up. One thought that I've always done from the early years, once your living expenses are met, the rest of the year, use the retirement accounts to throttle your earned income. There's no reason to make 300-400 grand a year in earned income. If you're a flipper, figure out a way to do the rest of it. Figure out how much you need to live on, your burn rate, whatever, 100 grand, 150 grand. And I'm not one to say be cheap. I mean, you enjoy Starbucks, have at it. Once you figure out where that is for you and your family, the rest of the year, hopefully by first quarter, if you're playing right, everything else should go in a tax-free pocket of somehow. And I've been doing that for years, and that's how I got the retirement accounts to where they are. You figure out a way to earn income, you figure out how to get it tax-free.
Good. Good advice.
IRAs, 401ks are great wealth building tools, but they're not magical. You still have to be able to do good deals. You still have to know how due diligence. You still have to understand real estate, small business. It's not this, I open up a 401k and I borrow a whole bunch of money and I'm instantly rich. You still have to understand the basis of real estate and the basics, that is, and how things work. And then kind of one of my last thoughts is hurry up and get one going. The rules keep changing. I mean, I stopped reading all the proposed changes until they're actual changes. I'm not going to even bother to read them.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. Every day in my news feed, some, legislature's proposing something preposterous, and then you're like, oh man, how am I going to navigate? So I kind of have a rule now. If it's proposed, I don't bother. I don't even read it until it's actual legislation. But given that, there have been some major changes in the area of RMDs and contribution limits keep going up. So that's positive. The more broke America seems to be from a retirement perspective, the more they're allowing us good stewards to put away. So that's kind of going the right way. Know where Roth contribution limits are on the 401k versus the IRA. Much, much higher. So hurry up and get that going, do the small deals. And then when you get bigger, you can take on less risk and be more passive. So kind of in a nutshell, those are some of my thoughts here. There's been a lot covered, so I'm not going to try to rehash some of this. I want to leave more time for questions and things of that nature.
All right, so I'm just going to open the floor if you guys want to unmute, ask questions. I also do have Bill Cook could probably talk about this a little bit, and I also have Derek Long is actually on this call. There's some really smart people on this topic. If anybody else has anything else that they want to add to this, again, the speakers, Jim, Rich, Jeff, Reggie, Kevin, thank you guys so much for investing in the Dealmaker community today. What else do you guys got? What other questions do you guys have? I just want to let everybody know I appreciate you guys, but what other questions do you guys have?
Tom,
Yes.
Tom, I want to just mention something about spin-off of Jeff Watson's idea with the lending to a landlord to replace an HVAC. That's a great idea. Another one, same concept, is if you have a friend, maybe another fellow investor that is starting an Airbnb and they need to furnish it and they don't want to take out cash out of their pocket, or maybe they're buying the short-term rental in an IRA, you could use your small $12,000 IRA to furnish their short-term rental for them. That'd be a great way to work it.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in? Any more questions?
Let's ask you guys, how would you rate today's Zoom on a 0 to 10? Was it good? Was it worth your hour of time? Did you pick up a couple of tips? Was there an aha moment?
Yeah,
Stephen
it was
Farr, good to see you.
yeah.
Derek, we really appreciate your joining us, of course. From
That much
here to
experience,
there.
it was a great call. And if I could, can I get Reggie? Reggie has a simple way he does his lending business. Reggie, can you talk about that for a minute or two? Just how, some lenders make things very complicated and you don't.
There's really no reason to. I think in the early years, Bill, not sure specifically, but people get so hung up on documents. They want the best document library in the world, and they get hung up on every clause and every weasel clause. Your closing agent will take care of most of it for you. You just have to basically understand it. But the gist of it is, more times than not, I'm betting on the jockey and not the horse. And I keep it really simple. It's a streamlined process. Either the deal makes sense, so that means you have to know how to underwrite it, obviously, or it doesn't. If you stick to the A players that do A deals, you have a lot less headache in your life. And obviously, we use software just like everybody else to monitor and loan servicing and what have you. But lending is a whole lot easier than having uh, other people in your life, tenants or short-term rentals or whatever. Hence, lender is really an ender. The L's just silent. So I don't know. That answer it, Bill, or is there more?
Yeah, did a good job. And Jim, can you talk a little bit about the event that you and Jeff have coming up in Texas?
Yes, it's coming up in October. We have a lot of people signed up already. Those of you that are signed up, thank you so much. Like, I think it's going to end up being a really big event, and we're off to a great start. It's coming up October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th at the Doubletree Campbell Center in beautiful Dallas, Texas. And it's going to be amazing. Jeff and I are going to get together pretty soon and shoot some videos for it. But Jeff, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. But before I do, I'm going to just say thank you to Melanie for all the hard work she's put into making things happen on that, the registration. And Jim, I got to
Thank you,
say,
Melanie.
based on the response that we've gotten with registration, we
Yeah.
have found the thing that people want.
I agree.
And we're teaching it with not just what Jim and I do, but how we do it. But we're bringing in some other really good speakers. And and I want to be clear about this. This event is designed for people who have maybe not yet done your first deal. Or maybe you've done a couple of them and you figured out there's some things you need to get better. You're our target audience. Or maybe you're like, I want to get away from banks. I want to get away from the hard money guys. I want to get away from the DSCR crowd. I want to find my private lending people. This event's for you. We're going to teach you how to be a better, smarter, wiser private borrower, as well as a better, smarter, wiser private lender. This is not how to scale some big business operation like Tom runs. No, we're not trying to do that. We're not going to try. That's not us. We're teaching.
But we do
you
have
how to
one
do-
session on scaling your lending portfolio. Mary Hart's going to deliver it because
Yeah.
she's doing it.
because she's doing it. But this is not about the focus of the event is how to do your next few deals the right way. That's what it really is. How to do it better. I've got no issues with the big lenders out there. I'm just want to give everybody more opportunity, more education. Mary's going to be there. Whenever Mary Hart's speaking, I just like to do two things: listen and shut up. That's all. I just want to do those two things: listen and shut up. Yeah. I could go on and I won't. But I'm excited about this event. We've got more thought going into this event than I think anything else we've done in a long time. So I'm really excited.
I really think we had the response we got. We just opened up registration June 1st, and the response we got in the first 5 days is the highest response we've ever had on a Dealmaker event in the history of Dealmaker. So thank you guys for that. It's going to be great. Thanks, Tom, for doing this today.
All right, cool. If nobody's got any more questions, we're going to shut it down. We're at the top of the hour. So again, appreciate all of the speakers for being on today. This will be recorded. So, I mean, this was recorded. This will be on the website. This will be out on social media by Friday, guys. So keep an eye out for it if you guys want to watch this a couple times. Also, I did want to mention, Derek is also offered if anybody else wants a little bit more information. I know conversions were talked about today, and a lot of people don't know anything about that. You're super green, and that's totally cool. And this is a good call to be on. But he said he's got some information about that in the chat there, dlong@heritageira.com. But thank you guys for today's call. I do want to just kind of share my screen really quick
I will say this leads right into next month's call with Lindsay Jensen, because you can arbitrage a small dollar IRA.
Yes, you absolutely can.
And Lindsay is awesome.
Yeah, here we go.
And check out Bill Cook's next
You got
next live event coming up soon, Bill. I hope you put the post in there for us.
I didn't, but we do have
Please
Pete coming
do.
up. Yeah, we have Pete coming up in 2 weeks too. So
Put them in there. But definitely everyone's got to go see you.
I agree. So next month, guys, July 15th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, we'll be with Lindsay Jensen. Hopefully you guys can make it. Again, thanks everybody for a good call today. Appreciate everybody, and we will see you guys next month. Have a good day.
High fives, everybody. See you guys later.